What's up, you guys? Time once again for the Matinee show. We're doing some stuff like on Netflix, maybe some other shit. We've been talking about this first one that we're going to talk about, which is a series on Netflix. We've been talking about this a little bit on the Sidetrack show as we've been like watching it over successive nights and everything like that.
It's a good one.
I have to say that this is one of the best series that I've seen recently.
Yeah.
And easily one of the best zombie series. This is Kingdom.
It's up there with like the first few seasons of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
It's like a Korean Walking Dead. But it's happening in like at the 1500s in the Korean Middle Ages.
Yeah.
And it's not from a modern perspective. It's from, it's like The Walking Dead, but it is from the viewpoint of the 1500s. It's bizarre, man. It's good. They did it.
It's a really good idea, like, for a zombie show. Because, like I said, yes, there's been, like, a zillion, like, zombie movies and zombie series and stuff like that. And you would think that, there's not a lot of new shit to do with it.
There is. Yeah.
But the way that this, like, incorporated zombies into what is already a really compelling kind of period piece about, like, palace intrigue and betrayal and, and honor and shit like that. So the way that they just kind of wove zombies into it,
yeah.
I don't know if it's been done before. Maybe it has. I have seen other zombie movies that were set like in different time periods, but I have never seen anything exactly like this.
Yeah.
And I think it's like a great idea. It was like a great idea.
We see zombies, of course, it's a 1960s invention. The Walking Dead. This came from the Night of Living Dead. So you can't have Korean characters from the 1500s using the word zombies.
Yeah.
Or using the words Walking Dead. So they are describing the zombie apocalypse from a 1500s Korean point of view. They can't call them zombies. They call it a plague, and they call it the infected.
Or monsters. They call them monsters.
Yeah. But they don't ever call them zombies. And they're trying to come up with scientific theories based on old-fashioned Korean science of what the hell this is, it's a brilliant way.
And honestly, the explanation that they give for how the zombies, like how the people are coming back from the dead is
pretty good.
Pretty plausible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot more plausible than
space radiation.
Or, something, or just cuz.
Right. They have they found evidence to explain it in a very unique way, a more naturalistic way. It's not supernatural, it is an infection.
But it's not a virus.
It's not a virus, yeah. So it's pretty cool. I don't want to steal the series thunder. There's only 2 short seasons up on Netflix. It is a Netflix original season, probably for Korea, I guess, but the subtitles on it are fucking great. Production level's great. It really transfers real well over into American culture. The Koreans have been knocking it out of the park lately. They know how to write characters.
It's like they have all of the stuff that I've seen recently, like over the past 6 months, a year. Actually, probably even more than that, because I've seen like some great ones that go in a couple of years back too. Every single thing I've seen that's come out of there has been fucking great.
Yeah, they're not fucking around. It's just classic storytelling, good storytelling. Now, the first couple seasons of The Walking Dead were very brutal. A lot of the main characters were getting killed regularly. This one, not so much. Characters that you do love die, but it takes a couple seasons for it to kick in. Now, one thing that you gotta remember is that a Korean season doesn't seem to be very long. It seems to only be like 6 to 8.
There's 6 episodes each.
Yeah, okay.
So it's 2 seasons.
Only 6 episodes
each
per season. And this is happening at the very beginning of the Korean zombie apocalypse. I mean, it shows how the outbreak started, how they mitigated it, and when the movie ends, the outbreak is still not totally under control. So it's just, and it's weird when it ends. When the second season ends, they're just introducing a new character in a wild way. It kind of reminded me in some ways kind of like the Korean Michonne character. mysterious woman.
That's what he said. He's like, oh, there's
must
Korean
be the Michonne, right? Mysterious woman appears, and then that's it.
The thing I like about this one, like, I don't know if a third season has been greenlighted yet. I mean, I imagine it probably will, because this is getting like almost universal acclaim across the board. The
acting, the sets, the story, everything.
I mean, and the thing about it is that this is actually based on a webcomic called The Kingdom of the Gods. And I don't know how long that's been going on, so I don't know if there's like more material. But I imagine there probably is if it's been running a long time. But so the first season came out in January of 2019. And I think even before they were finished with it, Netflix ordered a second season. Because I think maybe they knew like how big a deal it was going to be. Because I remember like hearing kind of a lot of buzz about it when the first season came out. And watching some reviews of it and people like really digging it and stuff. And then, you know, the second season, you know, just came out like a couple weeks ago. It's good because it's only 6 episodes. The episodes are about 40 to 58 minutes, depending. So it's a fairly easy thing to binge like in one, because it's less than 6 hours per season. But I would say, and I've seen some other reviewers comparing this like favorably to like Game of Thrones and stuff like that, where the production quality, the cinematography is beautiful, like all the lighting, all the sets, all the acting is fantastic. It's just this big epic like scope.
Yeah. And
it's really, really well done. I mean,
having lived in Korea for a year up at fucking Camp Greaves near the DMZ, this series is very, very Korean. And one of the things I liked about it is that it highlights how beautiful, but then again, how terrifying fucking Korea is. All right? It's either a mountain or a rice paddy. There isn't much flat land in Korea, and when it is flat, they're going to put a rice paddy on it or some kind of farm. It's just mountains, coniferous forests, cone forest, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Misty mountains. It looks like some shit out of the Lord of the Rings. That's what Korea looks like. It's very hot in the summer, very cold in the winter, and culturally, the tone of the movie's spot on, because Korea was always a small empire trapped between huge, powerful empires, the Chinese Empire and the Japanese Empire, and it was constantly being crushed by two enemies that were trying to take over, basically. The Korean Peninsula was always fighting for its independence and its survival. It was always run by North Korean-style dictatorships, even before it was unified. You could say that North Korea today is more Korean than South Korea, traditionally. Traditionally, North Korea was basically tyrants and warlords. All fighting against Japan and China. And they call it, they haven't shown the Chinese yet, but they showed the Japanese. Japanese
briefly. Because that was like something that was going on like around the periphery.
Right. So this is a great setting for a series like this, a zombie apocalypse type setting, because Korea was kind of on the edge of an apocalypse always. It was like a post-apocalyptic society in some ways, It was always being crushed. And it talked a lot about starvation. Starvation is a big part of this movie. It shows how, they were starving, Korea was always oppressed by external forces and internal forces.
Yeah, and it definitely, that's another thing that, like, it's like a zombie show, but it also has a lot of... kind of all the twists and turns of like the political environment at the time, the royal family, and the massive class divisions between like all these peasants that are like dying, that are getting the
open
disease.
Brutality and torture.
Yeah,
fucking, Koreans were good people, man, but and they're a strong people. I served alongside them in the military, North Katusis, and real strong Rock Army units were on the right and to the left of my unit. Rock Army Airborne troops and Rock Army paratroopers, Special Forces units that were there up on the DMZ. Brutal discipline. They're nothing like the Chinese Army, nothing like the Japanese Defense Force. Koreans were always tough, and that's why their entertainment, from what I'm seeing, this goes back to Train to Busan. What was that other good Korean one that we just saw?
Oh gosh, like I said, there's been
we've seen
so
many. The one with the
witch,
the genetically witch subversion. It's a protein-based entertainment. It's very soy-free. Koreans understand hardship, and it comes across in their storytelling. Just love it. I love it.
Well, and the cool thing about this too is that not only does it have like really, it has great gore, like great brutal kind of stuff, but you get, drawn in by that as like a horror fan, but you also get drawn in because of the interactions of the characters and all this intrigue and shit like that that's going on, like aside from the zombie stuff. And you get really invested in, kind of the main character who's the crown prince, Lee Chang, and kind of him and his friends are like all the people that are like trying to, get to the bottom of this kind of palace intrigue and betrayal and everything. And also trying to figure out, how they're going to fight the infection or like figure out how it started and what they're going to do and all this other kind of stuff. But you really get involved in like the human story behind them too. And that's kind of one thing that, like I said, a lot of the recent stuff that we've seen, like coming out of South Korea, Parasite, I Saw the Devil, stuff like that, they're just very good at getting you invested in people's characters almost effortlessly. It seems like, you know what I mean? They don't like seem to be making an effort to be like, hey, like this character or be interested in this character. You just are.
Yeah, they're kind of subtly do it. And they don't overplay. They don't overplay the characters. They just kind of let it flow naturally. It's good storytelling.
Yeah,
I can tell that it wasn't always this way. When I was younger and in Korea, I watched some Korean movies of the day. From the 80s and the 90s. They didn't used to be this good. They did start get better in the 2000s. Like I loved Musa, the Warrior. I don't know what the Korean version of the title of that is. It's kind of like the Korean. It's kind of like the Korean medieval version of Saving Private Ryan. That was a good one too. It's just their storytelling, I think, has improved a lot. I think it kind of was based on some of the best that Hollywood and other countries have made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The real old school stuff that I saw was kind of... You know how Japanese anime doesn't make much sense?
Yeah.
That's the way your average Korean movie used to be.
Yeah. Well, maybe they were more influenced by Japanese culture back then, and like now they're kind of like more open to like more influences.
Yeah, more of a kind of a Shakespearean three-stage, 3-part act type stories, things like that. Things like character development.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of that had to do with The Walking Dead. That was the first really great series. Also, remember how good that Roman series was, Spartacus?
Yeah.
The first couple seasons of that.
The first season of the first two seasons.
First two seasons, that was also fantastic. I think those two series really kind of changed the game. And you can see it in this. You can see it in this series here.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best things about this, like I said, it gets you invested like pretty much right away in all of the character struggles and stuff. And then like the first season is epic, but it's a little more contained because it's like a smaller type of thing where they're just trying to figure out like, the infected and, how they work and where they're coming from. And then like the second season, which just dropped March 13th, it just kind of goes epic in scope where now, the monsters, the infected, they're kind of everywhere. So they have to like go from village to village and palace to palace, like trying to like stem the tide of all this shit, other than all the other crap about like, the royal lineage and who's going to be the king and all this other kind of stuff. All that stuff is happening too. So it's just kind of like, it seems like one where the second season is really like, expanding out from the first in like a really, really satisfying way. And even though, I mean, this is the kind of thing, like I was saying about the character development and stuff like that. I mean, when something bad happens to these characters, you're for real, like legitimately like, oh man, I love that guy. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know what I mean? Where a lot of shows you don't really get that invest in the character where if something bad happens to them, you get like super bummed out about it. But this is one that's like that.
Yeah.
And, this is just one of the best series I've seen on Netflix. You can easily tell that each episode cost almost $2 million.
Right.
Which I don't think it was supposed to cost that much, but that's just how much it cost.
Yeah, it's not really sets. These look like real locations.
They really do,
It's like old Korean, forts and old Korean buildings. It looks like stuff from the 1500s. Costumes fucking look like...
the costumes are amazing.
Everything looks really good. And just the characters, the way they act and the way they're thinking, they're trying to be very 1500s. So far, I like it. It does kind of remind me a lot of The Walking Dead.
In some aspects,
in some ways. But in other ways, they kind of improved it because one of the weaknesses of The Walking Dead was that there were too many characters. And it was hard to keep track of so many characters. And it kind of muddled the story at times. Which this one, it really mostly centers around 4 or 5 different characters. So I think the story flowed a little bit better.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty sprawling, complicated story, but it doesn't ever feel like confusing or muddled or anything. Like, it's pretty easy to keep track of all the tendrils.
Yeah, and I really couldn't keep track of all their names, but you know who they are by their, of course, their faces. But I Sobi is one of them. Right. That's
COB. She was the doctor or nurse. I couldn't figure out if she was... Because sometimes they called her a physician or a doctor, and then sometimes they called her a nurse.
I think it's all the same thing. And
maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, she worked for a doctor and stuff. But she was like she was probably my favorite character. I don't know. It's like everybody in this is like really good. Like, she's awesome. Like, the Crown Prince is awesome. Like, all his, like... buddies, like his manservant or whatever that guy was, like his personal guard or whatever. That guy was rad. The guy that seemed like a villain at the beginning, the one in the village that made the soup or whatever. Who actually like turned out to be kick-ass. It's just kind of like all of the characters are good. All of them are compelling. The story is compelling. And they kind of wrapped up a bunch of story arcs at the end. So season 2 does have a satisfying ending. Yeah,
that way if it ends there, it's kind of a satisfying...
Then it's okay. But they also did leave kind of a big
teaser.
Like, or cliffhanger. Yeah, so if they want to do the next season, they have somewhere to go with it.
They included some damn Mongolian death coffins.
Yeah, I saw that.
I can't stand them things, man. Google what a Mongolian death coffin is, people. You see what that is.
It's pretty horrifying.
To me, that would be like the most horrible way to be imprisoned. But
it would suck a great deal. Yeah, I have to say.
So, but yeah, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're into zombie stuff, if you're into like historical fiction, especially like horror type historical fiction, this is it's a fucking great series.
Kind of reminds, if you like Shintaro Katsu, like, Zatoichi type samurai movies, if you like Chinese medieval movies, where they're, the first emperor type stuff. It's Japanese samurai movies. If you like that and you like zombie movies, this is it. Yeah.
And like I said, it's got something for everybody. It's like there's drama, there's intrigue, it's action, there's gore. Yeah. It's really, really good. I mean, just amazingly good. And Yeah,
and they kind of kept it cultural too. They were very concerned with bloodlines, and if you ever lived in Korea is kind of like racially the most homogeneous country in the world. They're obsessed with Korean bloodlines. That's just their culture, and they talk about it in this.
Yeah, because this is set like in the late 1500s. Yeah, so...
They're always worried about the family bloodlines and Korean bloodlines.
Now I kind of want to go read the webcomic.
Yeah, it's probably pretty good.
I'm sure it is. But yeah, definitely, if you have Netflix...
I hope to see the Japanese in it more and the Chinese. Remember, because the Japanese invaded. They talked about it.
Yeah, they're kind of hitting some at that, like toward the end of toward the... Or actually, that was the beginning of the second season where they were kind of talking about the Japanese invading and stuff. So I'm imagining that there's a lot of directions they can go with this because it didn't end up,
They showed a brief kind of flashback where they were fighting the Japanese, and they showed a badass samurai cutting flips, and a samurai was fighting the zombies. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, whacking the heads off. Yeah, the beheadings in this looked great.
Yeah.
I mean, it did not... I'm sure it was probably CGI, but it didn't look like it.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
The CGI looked better than Walking Dead, I thought.
Yeah, and they find out all kinds of weird ways to control these zombies. Weird ways to save people from becoming zombies. A lot of unique uniquely Korean ways of solving the zombie problem. I liked it.
Yeah, I liked all the stuff that they kind of added to zombie lore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were still zombies, technically.
But not really.
Yeah, but they had some other, like, little...
Kind of like a rage zombie.
Yeah, they were fast. They're
right.
fast.
But there are slightly different rules.
Yeah.
Like, they can't be too rotten and things like that.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, they have, like, all these different little changes in there.
And then there's things about elements. About water and fire and...
Yeah,
and they're trying to figure out temperature as a factor, and there's all kinds of stuff that they're trying to figure out. There are still unanswered questions, though. You know, I guess they just got to learn it as they go.
Yeah, because they definitely did leave a couple of questions open. Like I said, you know, the end of season 2 is still satisfying in the sense that you get to find out what happens to all the characters, but they definitely left like a little coda there that opened up a bunch of new questions. And I'm like I said, this has been getting such good reviews and such good press. I mean, I think it's got almost 100% on, you know, all the Rotten Tomatoes and all of that. So, you know, it's way up in the high 90s. So I feel like this will probably get a third season, and I really hope it does.
They'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, they'd be dumb not to, because, I mean, this is like one of the best series that they've ever produced.
If you liked fucking Walking Dead, you'd love this.
Yeah.
If you liked the Game of Thrones, you'd probably like this.
Yeah.
It's just, you know.
Yeah, it definitely has that same big, like, epic scope, just, like, kind of in a different way.
Even Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
There's something the way it's shot, you know, the way they shoot the countryside of Korea was kind of giving me flashbacks, remembering what it was like, what it looks like. I could almost smell what it smelled like.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when they were opening up all those canisters of kimchi. You know what I mean? Letting it all air out. I was smelling that. It's just... I could smell those farms and stuff. I remember what it was like living out there.
That happens every time I watch a movie that's set in Wales.
You remember what it smelled like.
Yeah. Sheep.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. But yeah, so definitely check this one out. I recommend this to anybody just without reservation, because it's just awesome all around. All right, second thing we saw this week, also on Netflix, and this was actually recommended to me by several people, and I'd been seeing it come up like in the new releases and stuff like that, and it did look intriguing, so we went ahead and watched it last night. This is The Platform.
Not a bad movie.
This is actually a pretty damn good movie. This is a Spanish film. The Spanish title is actually El Hoyo, or The Hole. This is kind of like one of those... like allegorical horror films, kind of like it reminds like Cube. A lot of people have compared it to Cube, or Circle. I don't remember if we reviewed that one or not. That might be on Shudder or Netflix or anything. The one about like all the people and they just wake up and they're like in this room and like they get zapped and they have to vote on who gets zapped and stuff.
I think it was supposed to be an allegory about, I guess, Marxist ideology, maybe.
I didn't really
communism.
Well, I didn't really read it that way. Here's the thing. It has like a lot of... This is one of those movies that the meaning of it is going to be like...
Yeah,
because I've already seen...
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of different interpretations. I don't really want to get too much into it because I don't want to spoil the movie.
Yeah.
But basically what the setup is that there is this... essentially like a tower block or like a prison or something. Although... the administration of it calls it a vertical self-management center.
Yeah.
And what it is, basically, it's just like all these levels, and each level has 2, prisoners on it. And then there's like a hole in the middle that goes all the way down. Yeah. Now, once a day, this platform comes down from the top, which is level 0, and it has all of this like really like lavish like banquet on it, food on it. But each level, it only stops for 2 minutes. And like as it goes farther and farther down, obviously because when it stops at a level, like everybody eats as much as they can eat for 2 minutes, and then it goes down. So by the time it gets like down to the bottom, there's like nothing left.
Even though theoretically there's enough food to feed everybody.
Theoretically, but see, I think
there's no way though you could fit that much food on a damn table.
I think that's one of the things that they were kind of pointing out, like in the movie, because the thing about the movie is that so the main guy who's in this. His name is Goring, which actually means, I was looking it up on Wikipedia, like all the names of the people, because everybody in this, like I said, this is an allegorical horror film. So every character that's in it, like their name means something. Most of their names are like food related. Like this guy's name means, I think it means fried or something like that. Mm-hmm. So he has voluntarily chosen to come into this place because he will get a degree at the end of it. So he's supposed to be there for what, 6 months or a year or something like that.
I think it was 6 months.
Yeah. Oh, another thing too is that once a month, everybody in the tower block is like gassed and unconscious, and then they move everybody around to different levels, like seemingly arbitrarily.
Yeah, because the higher up on a level you are, the more food you're going to get.
Yeah.
As this thing goes down. And, they're not sure how deep it goes.
Yeah, no one seems to know.
No one really seems to know. And then when it's done, I guess after everybody has had a visit by the table, it goes back up.
Yeah.
So they're just trying to survive this shit. I mean, to me, that's a fucking, like, that'd be like one of the worst prisons you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And some guys have willingly gone into it. Everything. I think it's actually an allegory for maybe purgatory or hell, or
I think it might be because I'm not gonna, like I said, I don't want to. I'm trying not to spoil anything because
I thought maybe it was some kind of an analogy for Marxist theory, but if it was pro-Marxist, it failed.
Well, no, I don't think that. I don't think that's what it was.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because the thing is, there's a lot of like implications. Like I said, this is one of those movies where it can be read like a lot of different ways. It's very like, in the sense it's like Animal Farm or something like that. It's kind of like that, where it's just like a setup, but it's still like a really good, like compelling movie. Like the characters, that's actual characters.
They try to escape. They try to figure out ways.
It was actually, I think the original script for this was supposed to be like a stage play. And you can tell that, but it is very like cinematic in its scope and shit like that. So so the guy Goring, who comes in there voluntarily, and everybody can bring one item with them, like when they come into this place, and he has brought, and this is very significant, he has brought a copy of Don Quixote. Yeah. Now, one interpretation of this movie is that he is Don Quixote. He is he's on this ideological quest, which ends up failing because he doesn't understand how the real world works, or he lost in his own delusions. You know what I mean? So some people have like interpreted it that way. Like you said, some people have interpreted it like in kind of a biblical sense, because when they find out how many levels there are and how many people there are and shit like that
doesn't really make sense.
That numerical thing has a significance also. Yeah. But it's kind of like showing, like I said, it's hard for me to talk about it without giving too much away.
It's a nightmarish idea. As it starts to unfold, I'm like, man, I've had nightmares that were kind of like this.
It is very nightmarish,
where you're trapped in a place and it gets more and more absurd as it goes, and then you get disturbed, and then you eventually wake up. Like shopping malls that never end, and escalators that go down, but you go down the escalator, but you're still up at the top somehow. Yeah, I've had weird shit like that, and that's kind of this movie kind of reminds me.
It kind of comes across
of
like
those
that.
Kind of dreams. It's something that I recommend it. You should watch it. Try to figure it out for yourself.
It's very Franz Kafka.
I'd have to see the thing. I think I'd have to see the thing a couple more times to understand. Yeah, it's in Spanish and it's subtitled. Yeah, the acting's very good. If you speak Portuguese, you don't really need the subtitles, but it's good.
This is one that definitely needs like repeat viewings because there's a lot of symbolism in this. Yeah. There's a lot of, like, especially like with the whole panna cotta thing, like with the little girl who may or may not be real. We're not really sure. Like I said, there's a whole Don Quixote type of thing going on, like the significance of him bringing that book, the significance of the old character that Goring is first paired with, Trimagasi, which actually I think in Thai means thank you. All right. And kind of what he brings to it, like why he has that knife and why he ended up in this prison. And there's kind of a whole thing about, and I like that they left, like, who built this prison? Why are some people in there for crimes, like Trimagasi is? Why did some people apply to go in there voluntarily, like Goring did, and like one of his other cellmates does later on, who actually used to work for the administration, that's all they call it, And then she went in there herself voluntarily because she wanted to see what was going on in there. So it seems like it was built as an experiment. I mean, that's what I took from it. Maybe not. But because there does seem to be an outside world in the sense that Goring, there's some scenes of him where he is applying or like interviewing to go into this.
Yeah, I don't think it's real though.
Management. Yeah, but
I don't think
I'm just saying that it's implied that it was designed as an experiment to see what would happen. If you had like these descending levels, of food. They're, like I said, they're positing that there is enough food on this thing that if everybody just ate their share, then everybody would get enough. I think as the movie goes on, they find out that is not the case.
That was grim hope.
Yeah, that was just what they were telling them.
Yeah, I don't think this prison, I don't think is happening in the real world.
No, it's allegorical.
It's happening either in another dimension, like in a heaven or a hell, or it's happening in somebody's imagination or something like that. It's not. It shows certain things happening that couldn't happen.
And I think some of it might be in Goring's mind too. I think some of it might be.
Well, just the damn table going down through the holes, going down through the cells. It's not attached to anything.
It's not attached to anything.
So it's anti-gravity. This is something somebody's dreaming up, or it's it's just a lesson they're trying to teach the audience in a form of a movie. It's something like that. It's weird. It is entertaining though.
I liked it very much. Now if you're squeamish, it's pretty gory. There's there's cannibalism. There's all kind of like horrible shit.
Yeah.
Also, I wouldn't recommend eating while you're watching it, just because even the food that's coming out is like so gross because it's like as it goes down each level and people gets picked over. On the table people's like people get shit on and peed on and also so you know what I mean. So if you're squeamish, you might like want to avoid it, but. It's just like if you like allegorical horror. Do you know what I'm going to call this? This is like Cube meets Snowpiercer. Yeah, you know what I mean. This is very much like that. Yeah. Like I said, there was a little bit of circle. Like I said, it's kind of Kafka-esque. You know what I mean, in the sense that it's just kind of this allegorical thing with this big faceless. The
way the thing ended, though, it didn't really end in a satisfying way, to where it made me understand it. I was confused by the ending. I'd have to probably see it again or somehow reanalyze it. Whatever it is, the movie isn't what it appears to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an allegory, I think, and it's weird. It might take me a couple times to watch it, I might be reading into it. It may not be anything. Maybe it's
I think after I thought about the ending, I think I know where they were going with it. Like I think I know what they were trying to say with it, but like I said, there are other interpretations of it too. I've seen other people because I was thinking about it and I was like, well, I wonder what's this and that, and I went and checked some other people's, and there's at least 2 or 3 other interpretations that sound just as. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that.
You don't really have to interpret any of this. You could just watch it.
You could and it's still entertaining. Yeah. I mean, it's still an entertaining movie. It doesn't have to be
just a bizarre-ass, nightmarish prison.
Yeah, I don't want to imply that it's it's this big, arty-farty, that you're not going to be able to enjoy it as a movie. But, yeah, it's definitely, it's a grim movie. But if you like allegorical horror, if you like this kind of just nightmarish, these kind of setups, I think you'd be into it.
I think it might be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I think it might be.
Well, there is some evidence to say, because some of the stuff I'm not sure if it really happened or not. And maybe the whole thing didn't happen.
It feels like it's a nightmare. I've had nightmares kind of like that.
Yeah.
Where you go down in an elevator and the elevator just keeps going and down and down and down and down. And you're like, where the hell is this thing?
Into a burning ring of fire.
Where's this thing? Yeah. Where the hell is this thing going,
But yeah, the setup of it too reminds me a little bit of like I said, Circle, that one where they were all just in that room. And I don't even remember.
See that one.
Yeah, well, I thought we watched it, but it was a while back where everybody was in these concentric circles and then they had to vote on who got electrocuted. You know what I mean? Every time the buzzer went off, they had to vote on who got electrocuted. It was a weird social commentary type of thing. There's all different kind of people and they were trying to determine who was the shittiest person, who deserved to get fried and shit like that.
The whole level thing is I thought it had to do with kind of a class system.
It is that
first, but not really because it changed every month.
Well, they were kind of trying to. I think they were trying to illustrate that because that it's human nature to, like, when the people were, like, farther down, like the guy Goreng, who's the main character, he starts out at level 48, right? And the old guy, Trumagasi, who says to him, is like, oh, this one's not too bad. Like, he's been in lower ones and it's shittier. Right, yeah. But, you know what I mean? So you would think that if you'd been, like, in a low level and knew how much it sucked, that you would have more sympathy for people that were underneath you when you were higher up. But they were showing in this movie that that was not the case. That what people were doing was that, if you woke up and you were on level 6 or whatever, like Goreng does at one point, like, you'll still, like, shit on the people below you just because they're below you, even though you've been in their position.
Well, all these people are bad people. They're criminals.
No, they weren't. Like, a lot of them were volunteered.
That doesn't mean they're not a criminal.
And that girl and that little girl, if she was really in there or not, she didn't have any choice about whether she.
I think the meaning of it is that no matter what if it has it's not even what it means is what it meant to me is that everyone was equally pretty bad. That's
I didn't get that.
Yeah, it didn't matter what level they were on. They were shitting on everybody below them. And then you could change.
Well, yeah, that's what they were.
You could change them all around. It didn't matter.
That's what they were saying. They were like, even if you had been lower down and knew how much it sucked, you were still like, it's still human nature to shit on people.
That's exactly what I just said, but you said no. But that's what so they're all.
No, I'm just saying that.
They're all bad.
That's what I mean when I was saying that it seemed like that this bill, if this, like, tower, like, existed in reality, that it was built as an experiment.
And then they had these high and mighty ideas, like, if we all just ration the food, everyone will have something to eat and it'll all just go and we'll all live in harmony. Turned out, no, it wasn't true.
Well, yeah, because
there was too many damn levels.
Well, yeah, because they didn't know how many levels there were.
I think it had more to do with, like, a dispassionate, fucking uncaring universe, or that nature doesn't give a shit about you. And other people don't give a shit about you. That's what I think what it meant.
Yeah. Well, that's
they're all in there on their own.
Yeah, that's kind of what they were, like, trying to do. But like I said, that was kind of like what that was.
But there was some about some kind of gift and a message to God analogy.
I don't think that's what it was. I
thought the people at the top that were making the damn food were supposed to be the gods.
I guess you could read it like that, but I thought that
the people at the top, giving an offering back to the gods.
Yeah, you could read it like that.
But that would have been, that didn't work though.
But I don't think that's what it was. I think that they were, I don't want to, like, spoil the end, but I think the people at the top, the people that were making the food, like, on level 0, I don't think they knew what was going on, really. Because because the one character who had worked for the administration, she came in later, she didn't know a lot about it either.
That plays in right into what I told you, though. Because, you see, with the whole concept of the demiurge, it's God as the devil, or an unknowing, uncaring gods on Mount Olympus. That type of analogy, you know what I mean? God's coming from the pleroma, and they don't know about you. That's all goes right into...
because even though those people at the top, like, that were cooking the food, they might have thought...
That they were doing a good thing.
They were doing a good thing.
And they didn't really know what's going on.
But they didn't realize.
So that goes back to, like, to unknowing gods coming from the pleroma. So you could have religious interpretations, but not Christian interpretations. This is like almost what was that pre-Christian philosophy that was Roman?
Mithraism?
What's that?
What, Mithraism?
No. I've mentioned it many times before. It's on the tip of my tongue. Gnostic. It's a very Gnostic concept here, you know. Gnosticism. It's what it sounds like. Gods coming from the pleroma. Demiurges, which are devil-like gods, or God is the devil, or God as the devil. Or just ignorant gods that are unknowing and uncaring. Or gods that have no concept of the material world and humans. So when they die, there's no reaction.
Yeah.
So I think it might be that, too. There might be a Gnostic interpretation to it.
Well, definitely.
But that's just my interpretation. It could be dude who wrote this just came up with some fucking weird ideas and
this is definitely, but it's definitely allegorical, and it was meant to be allegorical, but there are several different interpretations of it, and I think all of them are probably equally valid, because I've seen, like, a couple of different ones, and I'm like, I could say where
the Gnostic interpretation is that humans are individuals. There isn't any kind of collective people are kind of like animalistic and don't give a shit. Nature in itself is suffering. There isn't enough to go around for everyone, and people are supposed to die. It's an uncaring and a cruel universe made by ignorant gods. That would be an Gnostic interpretation.
Yeah.
All right. And that you trying to make sense out of it and make right or wrong out of it is all for nothing because the gods that made it don't even know. This is chaos.
Well, that's basically. Like I said, that might be the interpretation of why the main character, like why he brought Don Quixote in with him, because that was kind of like the story of Don Quixote, where he was like this delusional, like he thought he was doing good, but
thought he was doing good and he was trying to do good, but that's all a delusion. There wasn't enough food to go around. You might as well just, eat as much as you could.
Which everyone was doing.
Yeah, and you might as well just fuck over other people because they're going to fuck you over. They're worse than you.
Yeah, when they switch out, they'll like do the same thing. So this is a very...
That would be the Gnostic interpretation.
It's a very grim movie, but I still enjoyed it because it still had like some kind of black comedy. It had like a cool... I really liked the look of it. It's like very, very sparse, but it was kind of had like this red kind of thing, and it was all kind of shit. But yeah, this it seems to be getting a lot of buzz. Like I think it premiered at the Toronto Film Festival, like late 2019 or early 2019, and got like all kind of prizes there. Like it got the audience award, so it was like the audience's favorite out of all the movies that they saw. But yeah, so it's on Netflix, and definitely check it out. And once you've seen it, like let me know like what your interpretation is. I'm trying to, we're trying not to spoil too much of it, but
I might have it right though, more than I think about it. But I think it might be not a Gnostic story.
Yeah, it could be. Like I said, that sounds totally legit.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely check it out. It's really, really worth watching. Like one of the best movies I've seen on there lately. Okay, third movie we saw this week on the matinee was one that we rented on the Xbox, and it was one that we talked about for the last couple weeks, and we only just now got around to seeing it because we liked the look of the trailer. This is Guns Akimbo.
Yeah, had some feedback. Somebody in the comment section was like, oh man, it sucked. I thought it was going to be good. Got 10 minutes into it. I couldn't take it and turned it off. You fucking tripping, dude. The movie was awesome. I liked the movie.
I did as well. I thought it was a lot of fun.
I mean, it's not a serious action movie in terms of, grim and realistic. It's playful and funny and lots of action. I mean, it's constant action, lots of gore in it. It's kind of funny gore, though. Tonally, it kind of reminded me of a cross between Birds of Prey and John Wick 3.
Yeah, it gave me like a little bit of a Scott Pilgrim vibe as well. Like with a video game type of...
Yeah, video game type stuff, and the emoticons popping up when people are talking to each other. Kind of had a contemporary vibe, kind of like Ralph Breaks the Internet kind of vibe to it. And that was called Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Yeah, that animated
a little bit, like that. But I had a good time watching it. Visually, I thought the movie was awesome.
Yeah, the lighting in it was like really, really cool because everything is like super exaggerated. So like I said, this is definitely a video game movie. I can see why somebody might not like it because it is very like frenetic. It is very like coked out kind of.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah, but that's kind of the style, and I can understand if like you think that's like too much and it's like too spazzy and you can't like deal with it. But I actually ended up really, really liking this a lot. I thought it was a fucking blast.
The premise is basically The Running Man.
Yeah.
But it's being watched by drones and it's illegal.
Yeah.
Run by a kind of an underground crime syndicate making a bunch of money off of pitting people to duels to the death in public. And little flying drones are, chasing them and following them, and everybody's logged in watching it, making comments. You see the comments pop up as as shit happens. The villain in it, or the super villain, the guy's in charge of what was the name of it's called Schism. Schism is the name of the app.
And a Z.
It's an app that you buy so you can watch this death match. And the guy who's running it is the same dude who was the Jesus freak cult leader's right-hand man out of Mandy.
Brother Swan, yeah.
Brother Swan and Mandy.
Ned Dennehy, that guy's... Ned Dennehy.
Yeah, this guy's, in my mind, a rising star. After Mandy, everything this dude does... And this one, everything this dude does is going to be cool.
I almost didn't recognize him because he looked a lot different in this one. Like, he was like...
He looks like our friend Will.
He did, actually. Like,
yeah,
a few
if you were to tattoo Will's face, it would look like that. We know this old punk rock guy looks just like this. He's fucking crazy as shit. Named Will. And me and Will fucking with each other for years. Anyway, at the club, he reminds me a lot of Will.
Yeah, in the face he looks a lot.
And it's imagine Running Man had a baby with John Wick. That's kind of what the movie's like.
But it has comedy.
Comedy.
Like I said, with the Scott Pilgrim.
I went back and watched Running Man, and there's a lot of comedy in Running Man.
I had forgotten how much that was supposed to be.
With Arnold and everything, yeah, there's a lot of comedy in it that kind of goes over your head when you're a teenager or, watching the movie because you're, oh man, this shit's badass. Actually,
this is so badass.
Yeah, actually, if they were to film Running Man today, it would be like this.
Probably.
This is how they would have done it.
Have they remade The Running Man?
They need to, because even though I love The Running Man, the classic original with Richard Dawson and everything,
yeah,
when you actually get to the fight scenes, not much happens.
Yeah.
It's heavily edited. So they had all these cool characters like Sub-Zero and, who was the other guy? Electro, but they don't actually show them fight.
Yeah.
It's not real bloody. This one's pretty bloody. People get their fingers shot off, head shots. Dude's a total loser. He writes code. He's been watching Schism. This is how it starts. He tries to get back with his girlfriend. He's a dork. He talks about how he always wanted to be an alpha male type fucking warrior, but he was just a code monkey, and it's not really in him. And somehow or another, he gets into a fight with somebody online. And when he wakes up the next morning, he's got guns fucking screwed to his hands. They go right through the flesh. And there's no way he can take his hands off the trigger. He's got it's kind of bullshit, but I liked it anyway. It was two 1911s, even though it said each one of them, I think, had 40 rounds each, which a 1911 only carries 7 rounds.
I thought it was 60.
Maybe 50 rounds each or something.
I can't remember how many rounds there
are. But it's kind of in an
alternate...
It's kind of like in a slightly alternate future, I guess, when you say...
Yeah, this is not... I mean, because it's set in a mythical place called Shrapnel City.
Yeah,
Even though they actually shot it in Auckland, New Zealand, and some of it was shot in Munich in Germany as well.
Yeah.
Because the director, Jason Lee Howden, is from New Zealand. So so they shot it there, and so the Nebuchadnezzar character, because normally this Schism show, this web series or web show or whatever is it's criminals essentially, and they pit two criminals, badasses against each other,
fight each other,
and people watch it to see which one gets killed, and how Daniel Radcliffe's character gets involved in it. His name is Miles. Is because he was talking shit to other people that were commenting on it, saying it's criticizing them for watching this as entertainment and blah blah blah. So he was being a keyboard warrior. So the main guy that runs Schism, whose name is Richter, the facial tattoo guy. I love all their fucking names. The guy with the mohawk, I think his name was Fuckface.
Yeah.
At first I thought he was just calling him that because he was mad. I'm like, oh, that's his name.
Yeah.
His name is Fuckface. But yeah, so they decide that they're gonna get this. They've never had this happen before because all the people that are fighting are usually psychopaths or criminals or whatever. So they decide to get this kind of nebbishy character in on it just so he can put his money where his mouth is because he's been sitting on his couch and
talking shit
and everything like that. So yeah, they break in his house and bolt the guns to his hands. And so there's this whole thing where he has to fight the character who is the main badass, and she has killed a whole bunch of people in the last. She's the reigning champion.
Yeah.
And her name is Nyx, and she is played by Samara Weaving, who, I mean, she's fucking great. She's Australian, actually, but she started out, I think she started on, soap operas and shit. But she was great in fucking Ready or Not, which we reviewed when it came out in the theaters a while back. But she is, fucking fantastic in this.
Yeah, in this movie, the character Nyx reminds me so much of my cousin Catherine, who's this crazy-ass, coon-ass Cajun girl from outside Louisiana is my cousin. She would have loved it. She was, of course, she wasn't as crazy as this girl.
Yeah, because this girl's super crazy.
But you know, her mannerisms and shit, with certain shit she said reminded me a lot of my cousin. But yeah, it is. You can't take the movie seriously. It's pure entertainment. I mean, the girl weighs 90 pounds, and in one scene, she wields a fucking minigun like straight out of the Terminator. But it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. Okay.
Because it's not supposed to be realistic.
Yeah, she weighs 90 pounds. That weapon system fully loaded probably weighs about 150.
She's a tiny little slip of a girl. Yeah, that gun probably weighs twice
with the ammo pack about 150.
Twice what she does.
She shoots off probably about 2,000, 3,000 rounds of 7.62, you know, because the ammo goes fast out of a minigun.
She just
was standing up on top of a car doing it and kills. But it's a cartoon kind of movie.
Yeah. Super over the top. Super.
Which makes me real skeptical because why wasn't this fucker in AMC theater?
I think it got a limited theatrical release. I think so what ended up happening? One, it's not an American movie. It was made in New Zealand and shot in New Zealand.
Yeah.
It didn't actually premiere until September 9th, and that was at the Toronto Film Festival.
All right.
And then while it was at that, and then I think it played at Fantastic Fest. And then while it was at one of the festivals, like Sabin or whatever that distribution company is, they picked it up. And I think they gave it a limited theatrical release because it was like a small company. And then it went to VOD. But I think from what I could determine, I think in New Zealand, it got a theatrical release that just came out like March 13th or something like that.
I'm calling shenanigans. Calling shenanigans on this shit because this movie, I think the reason why they kept this thing out of the damn theaters because it would have competed very well with a bunch of high budget shit that Hollywood was coming out. This is very similar to Birds of Prey.
Yeah, tonally it's very similar.
But it's better than Birds of Prey, and I think that's why it didn't show here.
I mean, I liked Birds of Prey, but this was
better.
Fun. I think this one was a little bit more fun than Birds of Prey.
Yeah, well, I think this one was better because it didn't have the baggage of being a sequel and being a comic book movie.
Yeah, because I mean? This, I think, is a pretty original.
It was original.
Like, just a completely original story.
It's its own thing. So, I liked it better. I thought the action scenes were better. I thought the way it was shot was a little bit better. It looked more like John Wick 3. Yeah,
like with all those really bright, like saturated colors. Like it's dark and then there's like all the saturated light colors. I like that.
And I just think artistically and tonally, I think it knocked it out of the park. It
was soundtrack too.
Very good soundtrack. All covers from 80s and 90s classics. You know, it's freaking even got Rick James Super Freak in it. It's got
Ballroom Blitz.
And they're covers of those songs.
Except for the Cypress Hill one. I think that was like that was Cypress Hill one.
Yeah, it had some Cypress Hill in there, but that was an original. Just fucking good movie.
I have to say that like some of my favorite scenes, some of the funniest scenes are like happen early on. With Daniel Radcliffe, I have to say like he's British. Everybody knows that. He was fucking Harry Potter. But you know what I mean? So his American accent, I know he's played an American in other movies as well. Like he was in Horns and shit like that. But his accent was like flawless. You would not know that dude was not an American.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. But him, like, at the beginning, you know, he's kind of a dork and everything, but he's still, like, kind of a lovable dork. So just him kind of, like, trying to get up to speed with, you know, this situation that he has been thrust into and, like, all of the shit. Like, you have guns bolted to your hands. Like, you can't put on pants.
You can't take a crap.
You can't pee. Yeah. You can't do anything with your phone. He's like doing it with his nose and shit like that because he can't get the guns off. Yeah. And it's like there's just a couple of great scenes with him like talking to a homeless guy.
Yeah.
It's like this guy from New Zealand. I don't know who that is. But that shit was fucking funny.
Yeah.
Like the scenes between the two of them were really funny.
The humor's spot on, the violence is spot on. It does a lot of callbacks to other 80s action movies in terms of the guns. If you pay attention to guns and you know guns, you'll know the exact jokes. You know what I mean? Like she shows up with the minigun from Terminator. Certain guys have fucking Desert Eagles, which was fucking in the 80s. That gun was just a damn stereotype, you know? So, and then, you know, fucking large bore 500 Magnum revolvers or whatever, you know? Fucking I don't know what count, maybe 454, I don't know. But there's just cool guns in it. And tropes, and then you think a trope is going to happen, and then it doesn't.
Yeah, and then they do something
like,
else with it.
Shit, you know what I mean? So it's pretty cool. I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. It's funny because I think there was some kind of like I said, the director, who also did Deathgasm, which was also very funny. It was like another horror comedy, like about a death metal band. I think that might be on Shudder or Netflix. Yeah, I saw it like a couple of months ago. I remember it being funny. But yeah, so I guess like before this came out, I guess there was some kind of like controversy. Like the director, like I said, he's from New Zealand, and apparently he got into like a Twitter fight with somebody. Okay, so like there was this person, I don't know, a movie critic or something like that. I can't remember like all the details, but they used the N-word. Like a bunch of people like called them out on using the N-word, and then the director of this movie defended the person and said that everybody was like driving her to suicide or attempted murder or something like that. So it was like this big like Twitter feud. So so the production company for this movie who had just bought it, they were like, oh, geez, okay. And they're like, we don't like whatever he did. It's these crazy shit, whatever. We're still putting the movie out. So don't worry about it. So there was just like that whole thing. But yeah, I don't really know a lot about it. And I didn't know about it watching this, and I don't really... Who cares? That's what I mean. I don't really care about that kind of shit. I'm just watching the movie, like, if it's a good movie and if it's, like, entertaining and shit.
So maybe that was the shenanigans. Maybe they didn't want to give this a theatrical release because of ideological purity. I don't fucking know. To me, that's church lady shit. I don't care what people think. I also don't care what they say. If they come at me personally, I'm ready. All right. So, but I don't need to, I don't white knight need to defend other people. If they can't defend themselves, then there you go. Now, if it's somebody I know, Jetty, or some of my friends, that's, yeah, of course, but those are friends. People I don't know, I don't defend them. Because I might be defending a serial killer. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know that person.
Like, stay away from that person. They said, oh my God, and that motherfucker might be a big asshole. Might be a murderer, a child molester, some pedocrat or something. I don't fucking know. So I just stay out of other people's business when it comes to stuff like that.
I largely do as well. So like I said...
Let them fight. Fuck them. They probably wouldn't like me anyway. Let them fight. Okay.
Well, like I said, it's not a real fight. It's
not a real fight. It's a bitch fight on Twitter, Fuck them, all right? If they can't fucking go...
I don't even go on Twitter.
If they can't go toe-to-toe, then I'm not worried about it, okay?
But yeah, so like I said, it's,
It's a great movie, though.
Yeah, and I didn't know any of that until like, I just watched the movie because we thought the trailer looked cool.
It's got a 4.5 out of 5 stars on Xbox.
Yeah, and I like Daniel Radcliffe. I've liked pretty much everything else that he's been in. And he's great in this. Everybody's great in this. Like the girl that plays his girlfriend is great. Like the villain is great. And I think Samara Weaving kind of steals it though. I have to say, as Nyx, she's fucking awesome in this.
This movie easily better than Birds of Prey. This could compete with John Wick 3, and I think had it been promoted right, it would have reflected that at the box office.
Might have, yeah.
Like definitely would have beat Birds of Prey at the box office.
Like I said, if you go into it knowing that it's like a video game movie and it's very over the top, it's very cartoonish, it's very like fast paced and like coked funny. Out. But you know what I mean? If you like that type of movie, then you will probably love this.
It's funny
shit.
And it's violent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And colorful. Looks great.
Yeah. So, if you're into that kind of thing, then check it out.